Hello, hello, hello. I'm Andrew and welcome to the Dad Manual. And this is my attempt as a dad, and only a dad, to talk about the real reasons why the middle class is underwater and what we can do to go ahead and fix it. So in a previous video, we actually talked about what it means to be a middle class American. I made this video for three specific reasons. Number one, it's very important that we understand where we're starting from, especially when we're on such an important journey like trying to reach financial independence. Number two, we shouldn't be beating ourselves up regardless of where we're starting from. Just because we get on Facebook and we see somebody's feed that shows themselves in front of a Lambo living their best life doesn't mean we need to hold ourselves to that level of success in the immediate future, because that's the end of the journey, not the beginning. And number three, there's a ton of FUD out there, specifically on YouTube. And a lot of people like to make it sound as if you just change a couple of numbers on a spreadsheet, that the calculation in cell D47 will all of a sudden turn green and all your problems are solved, mysteriously, like confetti raining from the sky. So chances are, unless you're one of the upper class in America, deep down inside, you know the FUD that I'm talking about. It's the kind that tells you to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and that everything's okay and it's your own laziness that's the problem. It's the kind that tells you that, you know what, if you just had one more class in high school and they taught financial education in school, that somehow all these problems would go away. It's the kind that yells at you because you have a credit card. These type of things cause us to be reclusive and cause us to avoid the problems. So today, I wanted to take a different approach with some of this advice. What we're going to do is we're going to review a video that just came out last week from one of my favorite YouTubers, Graham Stephan. And we're going to see how there's different aspects in there that people just don't realize.
78% of full-time workers are living paycheck to paycheck. 60% of Americans don't have $500 in savings. The average American holds $5,700 worth of credit card debt. They spend on average $1,497 per month on non-essential items. And finally, to top it all off, 25% have absolutely nothing saved for retirement. And the culprit of all of this, besides the lack of financial literacy taught in schools, combined with the toxic consumer psychology to keep buying you things, is the average American budget.
And this is where I have my first problem. He lists out a lot of different items, all right? He talks about a lot of different failures in the American economic system, a lot of different failures that the middle class have in their specific budget. And he talks about it specifically as it can be fixed just by financial education, just changing your budget, and somehow you're supposed to go ahead and just change the marketing psychology that's been drilled in your head for, well, in my case, 39 years. So if you're tuning into this video, chances are you're on your path to financial independence, which means none of these stats are new to you. You've already started this from a place where you probably have $0 in your name extra at the end of the month, and you're trying to figure out what you do in order to go ahead and succeed and reach that financial independence. As a content creator, I largely agree with what Graham Stephan says, but we're going to go ahead and fast forward to the end so that way you can see, after his lists of cost-cutting ideas, where you're supposed to be at when you're a middle-class household.
That means between everything I just mentioned, it's possible for the average household to begin saving $1,257 a month with very minimal effort, relatively easily, just by cutting back slightly on existing expenses. And
oh my God! Did anybody catch that? $1,257 a month? Just slightly on expenses? What in the world are we trying to pull here? There's no freaking way. This is going to take some explaining, all right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to point out the difference between what Graham's numbers are and what reality is. Graham starts out by talking about $7,432 as being taxes of a median household that is middle class. That's actually not the case. When we talked about our video previously, a median household exists of 2 adults and 1 kid based off of a birth rate of 1.73, and the fact that to get to $63,000 to begin with, it takes 2 incomes because your median salary and across America is $35,977. So knowing that we have a family of 3, we can check on a tax structure here to see how much we would make. Notice I put in $63,197, 3 people for each, and we find out that we're going to take home $3,907. All right. What does that mean? That means that our taxes are going to be on average $956 a month. Okay. Well, you can see if $956 a month is going to equate instead to $11,472. Just that alone tells us that our numbers are not going to be correct for the middle class, especially for the median household income of the middle class. And if we look at how that affects our after-tax take-home income, that means that every month we're going to be taking home roughly $300 less than what we were planning with Graham's numbers before he does any deductions. Now, mind you, Graham is going to go ahead and pitch to you that you should save $1,257 a month, and somehow that means you're only going to live off of $3,051 every single month. I don't know how people are going to be expected to live with a family of 3 on $3,000 a month. It's just not that easy in much of America. And I live in Ohio, right? That's not an easy thing to do. It's doable. It's just not as simple as what it's being made to sound like. That means if you're going to do that, you'd have to have a 30%, almost 29% savings rate on your net income when you make $63,000 a year as a household. That's a huge amount. That is being very, very frugal. If you're going to do just the gross income, that's still 24% every single month that you're going to sock away instead. That's a big freaking deal. That's not an easy thing to do. And acting like it is kind of underplaying, it's playing down the severity of the situation that we have for the middle median income household. So I want to break this down into a couple different sections. The first one that we're going to break down is housing. From there, we're going to go down to cars, then we're going to talk about taxes, and then the big one that I want to talk about at the end is something called vices, all right? So the first thing I want to talk about with these numbers is housing. When Graham is talking about the median household income, he's actually telling you that somewhere around the vicinity of $10,800 is spent per living expenses on housing a year, right? That equates to $900 a month. $900 a month in rent, that's not that much. In the area I live in, which is middle income, out here in Ohio, which back in California, Nevada, or New York is considered flyover country, rents in my town average $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. When we're talking about city rents, a lot of those are $925, $1,050, $1,250, and that's just for the rent. If you're looking at housing and you're trying to keep the price down for owning a house, understand that there's capital expenditures that you're going to put in, like buying a new furnace, replacing a roof, and things that you're going to have to set on the side for. And most people who are actually buying the houses aren't setting aside any money, even if you can keep your PITI below $900. And keep in mind, PITI is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So $900 is actually a fairly low number when we're talking about a household of 3 people, 2 adults and 1 kid. It's not like you're going to find a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in many places for less than $900. It's just not going to be feasible. When we're talking about what Graham's suggestion is, he wants you to house hack. Now that's a great idea, okay? That's a great idea if you're young and if you're able to go ahead and do it. I have no problem with house hacking. He makes it sound a little simpler than it is. Because when we're talking about a house that you're trying to find that fits in this $900 a month section, that means that now you're going to have 2 families living in there. So you're going to have 6 people living in a 3-bedroom house. That's just not the way middle America works. 6 people don't live in a 3-bedroom house right now. You can do it. You can save money that way. And I'm not criticizing or condemning or complaining about the strategy of trying to save money on housing. I'm just stating that the simplicity of getting a house and house hacking and having somebody else live with you, it's not that simple. So the next thing Graham talks about is cars and how much can be saved there. We need to remember that if our car expenditures for the month or for the year is $9,004, then realistically that's $750 per month. Now we know already that Graham is saying that you can save $416 a month on automobiles. The kicker is, though, is this $416 only leaves us $334 that's left total. The problem is, I think Graham might be forgetting that this household has 2 working parents, right? We've already said that the average income is $35,977. That means we have 2 40-hour-a-week incomes working. That probably means that we have 2 cars. which also means that we have 2 tanks of gas every single week, especially if you're living out in the Midwest and you don't work in the same town that you are from, right? Like over here, it's not uncommon to drive 25, 30 minutes away from work every single day, there and back. If that's the case, just at $2.10 a gallon, you could be looking at $50 a week or $200 a month. If you're looking at $201 a month from his $334, that only leaves us with $132, and we've got to cover things like a car payment and insurance. Mind you, it's not just one. It's 2 car payments and 2 pieces of insurance. That means that each car is only going to be $66.37 minus liability coverage of $20. We have $46 to spend on a single car every single month. And how much does $46 get you to go ahead and spend? Well, if you have $46 at a 3% interest rate for 6 years, you can buy a whopping $3,000 car. This is somewhere around the vicinity of a Toyota Prius that is a 2005 and probably has 2,250 miles on it. This is not spending and YOLOing at some $17,000 vehicle. This is being very frugal when you get down to this level. So yes, I think that there is valid reason to say you could drop that number in half and say you could go from $416 to saving $216 a month. That would increase each one of these by $100. Now you're looking at you could spend a $10,000 car. So it's not to say that the premise was bad to save the money. I think there's a disconnect on how much money these middle American families have to be able to spend. And it's just not the way it is. So the next thing I want to talk about is this idea that somehow we're going to save $150 in taxes every single month. And that's going to drop down straight to the bottom line. Here's the kicker about that. I think Graham is confused because 401ks are tax deductible. They are not tax creditable. When you have a tax credit, it's a 1-for-1 exchange. When you have a tax deduction, all it does is reduce your adjusted gross income, and you still have to pay money on that tax spread in between. Let me show you exactly what I mean. If you were to go ahead and try to save $150 in taxes, we start out, he wants to save $150. We know up front we have $956 we pay in taxes. We know this because we've calculated this already. We've calculated $63,197. We're a family of 3. We're married. We pay $956. It's how we get the amount of money. We only take home $39.07. That's after we deduct our FICA and everything else. Well, what happens when we actually try to save and knock this number down to say $806? This one right here. We want this number to become $806 right there. Well, we have to save 10% of our income, not 20%, 10%, which means we have to put in $527 a month into retirement. And what happens? Okay, now it's down to $813. This means that our income is going to drop down every month to $35.23. That's our usable income. So in order to save $150, we're going to put in 10% and we're going to drop our income down by $384 a month. That doesn't save you money. You can't use a 401k until you're 59 and a half. I don't know how many times I have to say this. That is for retirement. That is not for the now. You are going to go ahead and hurt yourself financially by doing this. That doesn't mean you shouldn't put money into a retirement account. I'm not advocating that. I'm not your fiduciary. I'm not your financial advisor. What I'm trying to tell you is if you're going to try to save $150 on taxes, you're going to have to put in more than you probably think you're going to into your 401k. That's a big deal. So the last assertion that Graham makes that I want to talk about is vices. Now, vices is something that you can cut out, and I'm not suggesting you shouldn't. What I'm going to tell you, though, instead, is that you should include some fun money every single month. If you don't have fun money, what happens is it's just like when you're trying to diet and stay away from sweets and you never allow yourself anything. If you try to quit cold turkey like that, you're going to fall off the wagon almost every single time. If you don't have fun money, you don't feel like you're human. And that's a world that many adults across the world feel like. And people who are millionaires on the East Coast, on the West Coast, they don't seem to understand how powerful $25 is a week to be able to go out and decide you can go out with friends and family to one dinner a week. Or maybe to take your kids out to Nickel World, which it costs $5 just to go ahead and let them play, right? This is not an easy thing to do to go ahead and cut money down from here. And if we're going to talk about how much the budget actually only allows, I'm not suggesting that you go out and you spend your money on lottery tickets. We're just going to go ahead, though, and we're going to say what the budget here allows and that he's talking about. You're only starting with $64 a month. Remember, this is 2 adults to get to $63,197. That means with 2 adults, you only have $32 a month that you're going to spend as an adult across an entire month. Now, Graham's suggesting you're going to save 10 of that dollars. $10 out of that is what you're going to save. That's going to leave you with $44 to divide between 2 people in a household of 3. You might go to Nickel World once in a month. That's the way it is. And I can assure you, as a family with kids, it is hard to tell your kids no and to not let them feel like they're being left out and they're being the people that are left behind. It is not a simple thing to do. So what does $44 a month break down into when we're looking at how much it is? It's $22 per adult, which equates to 73 cents a day. I want you to think about that. We're suggesting here, if we follow Graham's advice, that you're going to give yourself 73 cents a day as a full-time working adult. When you go to work, you can't even afford a bag of chips. That's what we're suggesting here for fun money. You cannot afford yourself the luxury of going and buying a bag of chips as a vice. You can't do that. To me, this is preposterous, right? This does not put somebody in a healthy mindset. This is not something that's going to lift ourselves out of poverty. It's going to lift ourselves up from the middle class and get us up into the financial independence and allow us to retire early. Now, what is important about all this, right? You probably are saying to yourself right now that, hey, you know what? You've just bashed down this whole thing. Now you can't save the $1,257 and I'm all doom and gloom. That's actually not the point here. The point is a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people who have already made it will look at you while in your journey of trying to find financial independence as if everything is so simple. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. How could you not already do this? And what I'm going to tell you is that the race to financial independence is not a sprint, it's a marathon. The war is won in small increments. It's won with $5 here. It's won with $1 today. It's won in $25 a week, and it's won in $100 a month. It's learning the education, reading the books, and learning what you should be doing in order to succeed. Because I can tell you right now, you're not going to save on that budget. There is no American family that's not going to live in utter chaos that's going to save $1,257 a month if they're making $63,000 a year without major cutbacks. Like, the suggestions that are here are not just itty bitty little things to get fixed. They are major cutbacks. Major cutbacks. So my advice to you when you're starting out and you're trying to find your financial independence is to go ahead and understand that you're not going to catch one major swath of $1,257 instantaneously. Just like that. It's probably not going to happen. Instead, you're going to have to win a lot of small battles of $5 here and $5 there. And be proud of yourself when you can save $25 a week. That's a victory. That's a move in the right direction, especially when you have kids. Especially when you have kids. A kid alone costs $13,000 to raise every single year from the age of newborn to the age of 18. And that doesn't even include college. Like, where are you supposed to come up with the money for college? And you're already spending $1,000 a month just on a kid. So we just have to be real with ourselves and understand that these small battles are what it's going to allow us to win the war. Well, that about wraps up today's episode. What I want to know, though, is what you think. Tell me about it down in the comments below. And when you're down there, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It really does help out the algorithm. And make sure you subscribe to the videos because we release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thanks for joining me today. And until next time, I'm Andrew Sherman. This is the Dad Manual, and always remember, failure isn't bad. Failure to try and learn is. Have a good one.